Hi, everybody. Just as we were getting ready to start, my internet went down. Sorry. And I'm the host, Jen Wilson. Welcome to Leadership Lunch Chat. We're a few minutes late, so we'll get right in. I'm here with my good friend, Amy Vetter, and we're going to talk about issues related to leadership in the profession and in our lives. And I suggested to Amy that one of the things that we could do today is to start talking a little bit about, vision and leadership and the tie to remote work. Remote work's really an illustration of vision. And I have been confronted this last week by many conference attendances and speakings and conversations with my compadres who are also out there speaking, and reading emails from young next-gen folks who are writing me with frustrations. And I've just been facing that a lot of firms just aren't looking ahead. So I'm going to see if you want to jump in here, Amy, and talk about looking ahead and why it's important or what you're perceiving. And then we can I can give some examples of what I've been experiencing.
So I think, like most things that we see with change management, we do things the way we think it should be done, rather than maybe going to experts that have been there before.
Yes.
And I think there's good intention. I think there is an effort, but there's also a traditional mindset being applied to that versus future mindset, which is very different. And if you haven't had a culture of working remote and virtually, it's not just about that someone works from home or that you are still having them come into the office and having the option to work from home some days. It's actually a whole change management process that is important that you go through. And you're thinking through different scenarios, work culture, different work-life scenarios, but working with HR professionals and technology professionals that have been there before can really help you with success with this. Because just like you, Jen, over and over, I think what's not heard is actually how people feel. And the thing is, you can ignore it or think everything's okay. That doesn't mean they're not talking or not frustrated. And it's important that you're taking in that information if you're not the person to do it. I actually spoke for an administrative assistant conference a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about, mindfulness in the workplace and mindful technology. And one of them brought up the best idea that I've heard is that a lot of times we're not in tune to watching people's facial expressions or how they're responding and so forth. And in this virtual environment, a lot of times when you're the one as the leader speaking on the meeting, you're not looking at the people's reactions. And maybe the cameras aren't on and you need to make sure that they are. But they were saying, well, that's our job. As the administrative assistant, I need to be looking at every one of those boxes, seeing how people are responding, and doing one-on-one follow-ups with people, saying, I noticed that maybe you got a little distracted, or maybe you were a little frustrated. I could tell by your body language. Where did that come from? How can I help? And it was just such a small thing of like, if you're not good at looking for those things, then it might be important to dedicate that to somebody else or delegate that to somebody else so that you can smoke out that information that you need to make sure that you're designing the culture that you want.
Yes. Well, I love that. We call those moderators, and we always have a moderator on when we do partner retreats or big workshops with, remotely. We always have a moderator present because they can pay attention to the people while you as the facilitator may be trying to move the content forward. And sometimes you can't scroll screens and look at everybody's face and things while you're doing that. Where I was kind of coming from with this vision remote thing, part of it is the change management process. But I want to I'll take it back a step or up a level or something and just say that like, I was asked to try to find some substantiation of when we first started telling people to go remote. And Renee and I on our team were digging around in our like old IP, old content. And I read a blog that I wrote in 2006, 14 years ago. And it has a bunch of recommendations related to flexibility and time off. And it talks about anytime, anywhere work 14 years ago. And it talks about one of the bullets says, get paperless. I didn't have the idea of digitization yet. That wasn't a phraseology, but it talks about why you need to get paperless so that you can manage remote teams and you can manage remote client service. And this is 14 years ago. And I've been writing about it and speaking about it. And we've been surveying as a company now for a decade and, begging and pleading and a whole bunch of other things for people to listen. But, I just did this conference this week and part of it was what's next. And we were talking about remote work and remote client service. And for a lot of the people on the call, it was like, they were still like not totally sold that they needed to do it. It was a little bit like we're doing it for the pandemic or even some firms, they didn't even do it. They said business as usual, no masks. We never even closed down. I got some of that. And I was like, I mean, I wanted to cry about it. I was so frustrated because to me, that it represents such a massive opportunity and also such a very real demographic requirement. That it's 2020, people. This isn't optional. I can't believe anybody's still resisting it. And worse, that it's not, on their dashboard as a strategic priority. And I've been doing retreat facilitation and some firms are putting, make remote work and remote client service a core competency of our firm, a competitive differentiator. That's on people's dashboards and has been for years now before the pandemic. So one of the young ladies on this session I did, I started talking about borderless reach. And you and I've talked about this before on Leadership Lunch Chat. And it's this idea that everybody woke up to, wow, it doesn't matter where my people are. They're getting work done. They're productive. I can communicate with them. And so smart firms are starting to say, hey, we can hire people anywhere. And we will hire them from anywhere. And if we're in a geographic area that doesn't have the people we want, we're going to go get them somewhere else. If it doesn't have enough of the people, or if the people are, stuck sort of where they are and aren't going to be moving, where could we reach? So borderless reach is about you reaching out and hiring people in other communities, also serving clients outside your geography, especially if you're in a geography that doesn't have enough of a certain niche client. Or if they don't want to pay your rates or they don't value advisory, you could completely build a regional or national practice instead. And one of the young ladies, put in the forum chat then, hey, does this mean that we should be concerned about other firms coming into our geographies? And I was like, yeah, yes, plays both ways for sure. And firms are making that part of their strategy. So I guess I'm a little frustrated, not so much about remote work. I mean, that's part of it, but it's like, are we so busy running in the hamster wheel of busy season and deliverables that we can't raise our eyes up and look out to the horizon and figure out what our strategic priorities are?
Well, and I would say still, even to do that, you have to have the technology and foundation and work culture in place to do that, because it's really important if you're hiring people in from other geographies that they still feel like they have a career path.
Yes.
That they have people mentoring them and caring about how they're doing and what's working or not working with their clients. So it's not just that you're on Zoom with remote work or broadening your reach with other clients. It's the whole customer relationship process and customer success and employee success. So you really have to think through and talk to your people about what's working and not working so that as you go expand out, you're thinking through this strategically, not just throwing it into the wind. And I have seen where it doesn't work because people don't feel like they're a part of what's actually, like if the main office
Yes.
is in Cincinnati and then you have a few people outside of Cincinnati, they kind of get ignored, or those are the remote people, or so
Right.
So it's important that it is a mindset of everyone that works there, from the lowest level to the highest level, and how you incorporate that into your culture and education
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And yet, you know, like big idea here, maybe big idea. The idea that we would get rid of our building. You know, okay, if we can hire people anywhere and we can manage clients anywhere, certainly we won't lease more space or buy more space or build more space. But, you know, like there's this concept called, you know, parity or fairness. If I'm going to build a remote workforce, I'm going to stop being attached to being in the office for meetings and things. We'll never have another lunchroom meeting where we all cram around the walls ever again. We will always have a Zoom meeting. 100%, or Teams, or whatever your platform is. I'm not trying to advocate a platform, but
Right.
you know, we will never again do business in the in-person physical office paradigm if we make this sort of strategic leap. And I'm not even advocating that that's right for every firm. Maybe it's not. You know, I'm just saying I'm more concerned that 14 years after I wrote those words, and those probably aren't the first time I wrote them, there are so many firms who still aren't really getting it or grappling with it, or they can't even say that they've seriously turned it inside out at a retreat or strategic planning meeting. And if there was ever a time to do it, anytime, anywhere work, or at least beat it up and decide if you're going to get really good at it, it would be right now. Because you know, a whole bunch of other people already were getting good at it, and now they're going to get really good at it.
But I think it's at any level, because I coach accountants from, you know, sole proprietors to bigger firms, and it's a bigger discussion than a building. It's the pricing. It's a whole mindset shift. Like, you know, I have to have the foundational programs to make that work. And still, I would say the majority of the people, when I initially am speaking to them, are time and billing. That's not going to work from a remote work to really scale your business, right? Like if you're going to scale.
You mean their time and materials? Is that what you're saying?
Time, yeah.
What do you mean on time?
Billing for their time instead of being on package and value billing.
I get it. Totally.
So if you're going to create a scalable business beyond your geography to get clients that you want to work with, you have to define what those clients look like and put the technology in place to attract those types of clients and do the type of work on your pricing and process. And then you can bring people in from wherever. But it's a, you know, it's a 180. Like it's not a traditional mindset, you know, like where we're seeing firms come back to work, they're still, you know, and you can never replace the in-person connection. I mean, I strongly believe that, like, you know, there has to be where you're building in, you know, meetings together where you can all come together. I mean, you know, hopefully one day we'll be in a better spot with this, but retreats or whatever it's going to be, if you're not going to have a building, but if you do have a building, how you're setting that up so that you can have those interactions, which I do think is really important. I know for myself, 100% virtual makes me nutty too. So
right. And
so
I'm not advocating no more human contact or anything.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. But I think that you can create a strategic imperative and then work out the details of how you're going to implement it, and you can pilot it. It's not a light switch where you drop a lever and all of a sudden it happens. I am just blown away. Like I have a line in that blog that I wrote in 2006 that says, you know, go paperless, right? Get paperless. Well, so when I'm talking to people right now about the pandemic and its impact on them in their firms, they're like, well, we're not really fully paperless and our clients aren't either. And, I'm thinking of Roman Kepchek, a good friend of both of ours, but certainly a great friend of mine, longtime friend, the king of paperless in the profession. That, we could find blogs that he's been writing for 14 or 20 years or whatever about paperless. And how could we not be there yet? I don't get it. And especially when scanners are on your cell phone for free and things like that. I mean, I just don't get it. The cost to be paperless is nominal.
Yeah.
So it's just things like that I think, wow, so I'm doing a little bit of complaining, ranting. So I'll shift to also just say, I want you to raise your head up and look out on the horizon, please. Right now, you got 10 weeks or something until spring busy season. Stop and say, what are our strategic imperatives? What are 2 or 3 big rocks that we're going to tackle over the course of the next 12 to 18 months that are strategic and important and will take us into the future, are not traditional and are not today's work? And then I think when you establish that, when you look out and think about these big rocks, then it will change what you do day to day. Instead of just being mired in your day to day and be too busy to look out, and then you just wake up at some destination that's not even what you planned, wanted, or that the market is going to dictate. It's just, I think that's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm calling people to. And it's so clear to me how few firms have done that. If we're in this position with this many firms kind of still waking up to the idea that some of these technologies should have been put in place, some of these business processes should have been put in place. Anyway. So, and the pandemic's done us a favor in that respect. It's a silver lining. It's a terrible event that has some, unintended positive consequences. This is one of them. We were forced to learn it for many firms. So now what? Now what are you going to do with it? And I don't want to be writing the same stuff 14 years from now. I want to work on something else.
Yeah.
Not that.
Well, I still think it takes time to pause. Like if you're not going to schedule planning time, that's why you wake up 14 years in the same path. Like any business, no matter what situation. And I know a lot of people feel at this time that there's, how do I know? How do I know what's going to happen?
Uncertainty.
Right. But there are things we know, and there are things that we can still plan for what we want to be, even if we can't do it right away. And so if we don't take those, retreat, even if it's remote retreats, to work on the business, not in the business, and really kind of push ourselves to think differently, shift our mindset from traditional to future of what could we look like? Who do we want to work with? How could this look? And if you don't have the expertise to do that, bring the right expertise in to help with those types of planning sessions. But there's never been a more important time than now to do it. Like there's been a lot of, the pandemic's been good as far as it has for certain things, but now's the time to look at, did it work?
Yes.
What did work, what didn't work, and what can we do different as we move forward? And learn from the things that didn't work. Doesn't mean you won't still do it, but it might look different. And I think in the traditional mindset, the way and there's many professions like this, that it's just what I'm used to. So I'm going to keep doing what I've always done because it makes me comfortable, but it doesn't mean it's working anymore. It doesn't mean the next generation is happy to be there or that it's the right thing for the business. So it's important to put it on your calendar, schedule it so that you're taking time to plan for the future of your business.
For sure. And involve some next gen people. They have plenty of opinions, lots of ideas, lots of energy around change. They'll run it for you. They'll make it happen. They know what they think needs to happen for the most part. They don't have certainty, you don't have certainty. None of us does. There are a few things that are certain demographic trends. We're going to see a lot of baby boomers retire. We're going to see the rise of next gen. We're going to see people of color, more business owners who are female and of minority status. We're going to see more of that. Those are real live trends. You can't argue with demographics. They're not soft. They aren't maybe going to happen. They're happening. And technology is a hard trend. And digitization and the digital experience and the increasing move away from paperless and in person, that's happening, folks. So anyway, those are a couple certain things you could take to the bank in your planning of your big rocks. What are we going to do about those? And how will it shift our client mix? How's it going to shift our talent pool? How's it going to shift our technology investments? So I just think that I feel a little sad when I think across the profession how few firms are moving at the speed necessary to remain competitive, not just with clients, but with talent. And I think one of the ways to do it is to get your eyes off the paper in front of you and look out and say, what's next for the market and what's next for us?
Yep.
So are we at time? We have.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Yeah, more than. I just really am grateful to have the opportunity to process this with you, Amy, and try to figure out what's bugging me, but also what I want to, recommend. And thanks to all of our viewers and participants for doing that with me too. And we'll be here next Friday at Leadership Lunch Chat. So join us. And if you have any ideas for topics you want to cover, please don't hesitate to send them to us. Thanks all.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks.